Okay, so moments from St. Louis. Well, I don't really think there's just one. I actually think there's like 3 distinct moments to talk about from St. Louis. So for me, moment number 1 is Ken Gucci and the oil down. Ken Gucci, a veteran driver, always pushing hard, just had bad luck go his way after contact and put down oil all over the track that really changed the dynamics of competition after that. Even with all the cleanup and everything that happened, a lot of drivers were still struggling with it, and we saw a lot of contact that may have resulted from the track really not being as grippy as it was prior to that. So it was a super bummer for Ken, but it made a story that everybody could talk about afterwards about how the impact of that oil down affected competition.
In the top 32, when I was chasing him, I unfortunately got too aggressive in the chase, swiped his car in the transition going towards inside clip number 1. And unfortunately his crash bar sat a couple inches higher than my front bar. And what that did was it took out my oil cooler fittings. Now little did I know that I was spewing out oil throughout the rest of the run. By the time I had realized what was going on, it was just too late. I just shut off the engine, and I had laid out so much oil all over the track, which I feel terrible about to all my fellow competitors and sponsors, and of course the series.
Whenever there's any mishap on the track and there's workers trying to clear it up, it's always a mental reset for the drivers. You know, we suit up, we have our routine, we get ready, and that's how we feel prepared. When there's a hiccup, now that routine is tampered with. So it's tough. That was one of the battles to go afterwards. I luckily wasn't the battle to go right after. I felt bad for Chris. He had to deal with possibly a slippery track, and that's never fun. I got to observe that, but it's still, I think, for everyone that went right after that, is a bit of adjustment.
I mean, obviously Gucci didn't mean to do that, and it was kind of just the perfect scenario for that to happen, and it's unfortunate. It really threw a damper on the track layout itself. It made it slick for a while there. I don't think it really felt normal again until the semifinals when I went up against Osbo.
Ken, thank you very much for oiling down the track. I mean, it ended up being super slick after that, and I think we were perhaps able to capitalize on that. I'm not saying it was team orders or anything like that, but we were able to put good grip down despite the super loose conditions, and I think that was, in hindsight, one of the reasons why we did so well.
Moment number 2. Well, this one I think is kind of funny actually, and for me it's like one of the greatest moments of the year. I'm calling it the clock heard round the world. And this was Matt Kaufman trying to make it back after a competition timeout. You can hear in the background our guys yelling, "Start the motor, start the motor." So they drop the car, he starts the motor, and he gets off really quickly. Well, we happen to have the competition timeout clock sitting right to the left-hand side of the car. Kaufman, bless his heart, burns out right over it, smashes it to bits, and it becomes a moment captured on the live stream. You look up and you see Trey looking there with this stunned face like, what just happened? The clock is destroyed. Is Kevin gonna be mad at me? I thought that was an incredible moment.
Really, your job is to watch the 5-minute call count down, and yet you leave the clock somewhere else to get ran over.
I was on the other side of the car watching the lug nuts get put on.
So you weren't watching the clock either.
I was watching the clock.
Get ran over.
I could see the clock. It was over here, car's here, and then the car's on top of the clock. And then...
But you weren't watching the clock, which was your number 1 duty.
I was watching the clock.
Then how did he get run over?
Because the clock was on the other side of the car for me.
So you weren't really watching the clock?
I was. I could see it, but when Kaufman just goes...
All right, so moment number 3 on more of a serious note, for me is really the driver rivalry between Frederick Osbo and James Dean. For the past 3 seasons, they've been going back and forth, and Dean has got the better of Osbo, not always when they go head-to-head, but in the overall championship standings. Now they battle each other at St. Louis one more time. James Dean gets the nod against Frederick Osbo and closes the championship gap to 1 point. 1 point in the championship. So coming into the last 2 rounds, it's going to be incredibly important to see how these 2 champions finish up their season.
Yeah, it's a familiar feeling, you know, coming in here, first in points with James nipping at our heels. It's a very, very tough championship to be a part of this year, and all the Formula Drift drivers are just putting on a clinic every time they're out there. So for us to be doing so well is something you really gotta appreciate. You know, we've struggled here in Texas in the past, but I think we have a better performance in us for this round.
It's absolutely crazy to say that we're at the second last round of the championship in Formula Drift Texas. Once again, it's myself and Frederick in 1 and 2, and it's crazy. That's the third year in a row that it's the two of us at this point. But this year is a lot closer to other seasons where myself and Frederick had more of a gap to the rest of the field. But all the guys chasing us are putting on the heat, and you know, you can't just focus on one driver. You have to, you know, worry about everyone because they're all taking huge risks, all pushing seriously hard, and the competition is absolutely awesome. So I'm enjoying the challenge. You know, I feel like I've achieved my dream in Formula Drift, which is winning the championship. Then we managed to back it up. So whatever happens from here on out, I'm just along for the ride. I want to put on the best show we can possibly do for the fans and try to, you know, get better as a driver and just enjoy what I'm doing, and that's living my dream. So yeah.